Hmm. Hello. And now I realise that there's a nice delay on the video stream for me to try to work out whether everything lines up or not. And it doesn't quite. Let me just drag that a bit further over. See what that's
Hello.
like. And now I realise that there's a nice delay on the video stream for me to try to work out whether everything lines up or not. And it doesn't quite. Let me just drag that a bit further over. See what that's like. That'll do. Right, and then the other thing I need to do is not have myself in, well, one, chewing up bandwidth, and two, in my ears, confusing the hell out of me. Right, okay. So I'm playing around. We've got a Liverbird that you can see. Is it up there, down there? I can't remember where it is now. It's down there on the stream. That used to be on the side of the Echo building here in Liverpool, and for the last few years it's been on the wall here in Does Liverpool, which is the makerspace that I'm based in. And we upgraded it recently because we've got the My Baby's Got LED boards that are little ESP on what is it? Yeah, little ESP on a circuit board that you can connect up to a load of NeoPixels, which is what's in the Liverbird these days. That's not what was in it when it was on the side of the Echo building, but Alistair Horton and I upgraded it a few years back. That was a kind of previous project, and yeah, we've stuck a load of NeoPixels in it. It used to be controlled by an Arduino and a Raspberry Pi, and now it's just controlled by the My Baby's Got LED board. And this that you can see on the kind of screen is the interface to the My Baby's Got LED board that's being served up by the Liverbird. So it should be possible for me to change the colour, and I'm not sure what pattern it's running through at the moment. It's whoever was last playing around with the board. Let me see if I make the brightness a bit stronger and see if that's gonna make it better on the stream, or if that's just gonna wash out the camera even more. It's kind of washing out the camera quite a bit, isn't it? Let me see if that's, which is the tricky thing with like filming LEDs. I found like LEDs are cool when you're seeing them in the flesh, and then when you're trying to like film them or take photos of them, it's like super hard to get them to kind of look good. So yeah, it's all a little bit washed out, I'm afraid, but hopefully that will work well enough. And the plan today is to connect Twitter to control that Liverbird. And so the way that I'm going to do that, let me open a terminal window and make that a bit bigger. So I've got a Raspberry Pi hooked up to the network, and I'm going to use NodeRED, which is this really nice graphical user interface, programming interface to controlling LEDs. Well, not controlling LEDs, controlling anything, and we're going to control the LEDs in the Liverbird. So let me just connect into the Raspberry Pi. And you could do this with the Raspberry Pi. The standard Raspbian software has a full kind of desktop environment and things, so you could do it all in that. I'm just connecting in with SSH because then it's easy to do everything from my laptop that I'm streaming from. And if I just run apt-update just to kind of get the latest version of all the software. And what we'll do is basically just install NodeRED onto this Raspberry Pi. You could do a sudo apt upgrade to upgrade the software that can be done, but I'm not going to bother with that now because it's going to take some time out of this live coding. And I'm just going to do sudo apt install NodeRED. And so this is going to pull down, and yes, it's fine to install all of those things. And so that's going off and pulling down all the latest NodeRED software and going to install it onto the Raspberry Pi so that we can then connect to it in a minute and get that to control the LEDs. And I kind of thought that it would be better to install it live so that you get to see. I've just started from a standard Raspberry Pi install, and I'm just doing this, which I don't know, it's going to take a while. So I then need to kind of fill for a bit whilst it's just doing all this installing. I think it's a Raspberry Pi 2 that this is running on, maybe a 3. So not the super fast Pi 4, but hopefully it's not going to take too long. So maybe while it's doing this, I'll just kind of sketch out what I'm trying to achieve. So what I want to do is hook it up to Twitter so that you can tweet does the Liverbird play, and then give it a colour, and like if I flip back to the WLED software for a minute, so okay, it's running the scan dual pattern, so there are all these different patterns available, which if I pick one, I don't know what this is going to do. Oh, there we go. Kind of like sort of fire sort of effect. Like some of them use the colours in the colour palette. So basically, the tweet will be, does the Liverbird play? And if you tweet a colour, it will change what the colour is, which on some of these effects doesn't do anything because there's a fixed palette. But other ones, so I can just do solid, and that just does a single colour. So you'll be able to tweet, does it play blue, and it will go blue, and does it play pink, and it will go pink. It looks very red in the not too bad on the stream, I suppose. And then you'll also be able to pick an effect like dissolve, which is what it's running at the minute, or let's see, are there any other? What does meteor smooth look like? That doesn't seem to be doing very much. That's possibly because it's got too many colours picked in it. Noise 3 is that. Again, has its own colour palette. So you'll be able to pick a bunch of these. Railway, I think, just doesn't look great with these colours, but the idea is that most of this stuff you'll be able to control via Twitter, just so that we can get people to do kind of interesting things with the Liverbird, and have it do cool stuff. It's all a bit playful, so let's see how. There we go. NodeRED has quite happily gone away and done all this stuff in the background whilst we were chatting. So let me type in IP address, which will let me find out this is plugged in via Ethernet, so it's an ETH0. If it was on Wi-Fi, it would be a WLAN 0 that we're looking for. And then this iNet here is the internet address of the Raspberry Pi, and I'll need that in a minute. So let me just make a note of its IP address, which is generally it's 4 numbers separated with dots. You might have seen it in web browsers URLs and things like that occasionally. So if I copy that, and then if I run NodeRED, is that going to work? NodeRED command not found. Why is command not found? Is it NodeRED with a dash? That seems more kind of plausible. Seems happier. It's definitely not complaining at me. Here we go. So this is the NodeRED software starting. I can't remember if it configures it by default to always run when you boot up your Pi, but you can totally have it do that. So if you were going to do this, leave it running, you could set it up as a service so that it would automatically start, and then if there's a power cut or something like that, and when the power comes back and your Pi boots up again, it'll automatically start all the NodeRED stuff to then control whatever you're wanting to do. So that's up and running. It does tell us the server's running at this address, but that's an address to visit from the Pi, which is this 127.0.0.1. That will only work when you're on the Raspberry Pi itself. Because I'm not on the Raspberry Pi, I need the IP address that I got earlier. So if I open a new tab and paste in that IP address, and then NodeRED runs at port 1880. So we need a colon 1880 at the end of things. And if I hit return, then we should get a NodeRED interface. So let me maybe make that a bit bigger so it's a bit easier to read. Might also give me not very much space to be sketching out the flows for things, but I'm sure we'll make do. So this is a programming environment. So you can, like there's all these different, sort of this palette of kind of nodes that do things. And as you can see, there's loads of stuff, and it'll do network sort of things, and talk to a serial port, and play audio through the Raspberry Pi. Yeah, parsing different formats of web pages, or JSON, which is a common data format for talking to things on the internet. Do things with files. The Raspberry Pi one has got some stuff to do the GPIO pin. So if you've got like circuits connected to the little header board on the Raspberry Pi, you can put buttons onto that and then have them work as inputs to trigger things happening. Or if you've got a motor or some like an LED or something, then you can have them wired up to outputs and get them to do things. So let me just do a very simple kind of thing here. So this is an input node, and it will kind of, every time this button gets clicked, which isn't available just yet, it will send a kind of a message out of this outgoing port. So if we also drag the debug one's always a good one to have when you're beginning stuff, because you can see what happens, and then you just drag wires to show where you want things to go. It's kind of like a float. I'm going to drag that around, and then if I get this properly, I can drag a wire off and I can connect it up to the other end, and so now you see they're connected. Now you see this deploy button up in the right. That's basically, this is kind of me editing stuff and working out what I want it to do, but it's not running yet. When I want it to run, I have to deploy it, which is basically kind of like start this running. And so now this program, not that it's a very complicated one, is running. And there is this little bug icon which shows me the debug messages. So all the stuff that arrives here will get printed out over here. And this timestamp one at the moment is going to send a timestamp out in the message payload. So if I click on here, we should see, yeah, so this is the time. I expect it's in milliseconds since 1970 probably. That's kind of quite standard. You can choose different things. So you could just have a string. We can just say hello and save that. And then we need to deploy it again. And now each time if I click this, it will say hello. So there we go, we've got a message showing up. So this is, yeah, NodeRED. It's an awesome bit of software. And it's good for kind of wiring up little prototypes and playing around with things. So what I need to do is we want to control the WLED software that's on the My Baby's Got LED board. And so if I go over here, these days, yeah, I can manage palette. And this is just some really, it's all nice and integrated now. Excuse me, and there's loads of different nodes, he says, whilst they're not being able to find the WLED one. Okay, so we can search for Twitter, and that still doesn't do anything. Like, this is doing this just to annoy me, because when I was playing around with a different install of NodeRED the other day, it was searching stuff and finding it really easily. So I don't know why that's not finding any of these nodes. NodeRED. Yeah. NodeRED. Why can't it find the Twitter one? That is annoying. That's NodeRED, Twitter. So we'll just do a quick search and find that there is this NodeRED node Twitter node. And I'm not totally sure why that isn't showing up. Let me just go and have a look and see if I can work out why. Yeah, let's actually open a new terminal window, and again connect to the Raspberry Pi. Sudo apt search. I'm just wondering if there's any additional NodeRED packages that we should maybe have installed to get access to more things in the background. No, that doesn't seem to be the case. Okay. Right, yeah, not sure why it's not finding the NodeRED nodes when we're searching for things. Just give it one last chance. Maybe this is why. Yes, there we go. Spot the deliberate error, or the stupid user error. Yes, I think that's looking through the nodes that are already installed, and I can install new ones by searching in the install thing. So there we go. NodeRED, node Twitter, and then I can just click on install. And yeah, like I think I'm okay just doing install on this. Famous last words. You know, you'll get to see me debugging what happens if you don't have the dependencies properly at some point. If we go back to the NodeRED, we see it's installing this new node, and that's giving us some new node types, which are those kind of palettes of things down the left-hand side. So is that done now? Have we gained any Twitter nodes? Social, yes. So we have a Twitter in. So let's see, and that will probably need some Twitter credentials. Oh, do I have to create an application? Right, okay. Yeah. Let me open that in a new window, because there might be times when I want to drag things off screen. Here we are. Well, it appears that I already have an app from some time in the dim and distant past when I was doing stuff with the Liverbird, and that's definitely not being used for anything else, so I can actually just steal the credentials for this one. Yeah, that's all fine. Right, and yeah, I'm going to drag this off to the side before I share my keys and tokens with the world. Twitter stuff, and then I will need an API key, and yeah, again, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring that to the front, make it always on top, and then you won't be able to see quite so much whilst I drag windows around and hopefully get them into a place where I can cut and paste some stuff. Okay, that's good. They're showing up as and actually yeah, conveniently these are password fields, so I don't have to worry quite so much about you being able to see what I'm doing. Just resize the window so that I can hopefully see all of the things that I need to be able to see. Now the Twitter window expects everything to be a certain size that I can't. Okay. I'm not quite sure what's happened. This is Firefox taking too much of my browser Chrome or something by the looks of it. No? Why can't I? Full screen. Okay. I can't make that always on top. Okay, let's go back to plan A, which was to make this always on top. Use this to obscure what I'm doing, so I can hopefully work out, regenerate some access tokens, copy. Okay, so that is the access token, I think. And that's probably just showing you a bunch of my access token secrets, but anyway, right, there we go. So that has, yeah, or reasonably involved, but there are steps explaining how you'd go and build an app on, or kind of create an app on Twitter so that you can then search through for things. So then what we're going to search? Well, we're going to search all public tweets, and we're going to look for does the Liverbird play? So this should now, yeah, especially if I drag that over to there, so we're going to get to see the debug output when it gets deployed. And you can find out, like if you look at the info, is it info? No, it's the help one. There's help for all of the different Twitter nodes, or not Twitter, NodeRED nodes. So you can see if you click on one of them, it gives you some information about what it's going to do. And so the Twitter one, we can do searches for different things, and it's going to have, the payload is going to contain the text of the tweet, and the payload is what's going to get printed out here. So the messages are what get kind of passed from node to node. So every time there's a new tweet, it's going to generate a message, and the payload of that message is going to be the text of the tweet. The topic is going to be the person who sent it. There's then going to be a tweet object, which will give us loads more information. But yeah, let's deploy that and then see what happens and see if we can get somebody to tweet. Does the Liverbird play? So let's, yeah, does force of habit of how I capitalise does for does Liverpool. I don't think the capitalisation matters. Does the Liverbird play today? We'll just say, and let's tweet that, and then see if it shows up. Yes, there we go. And this is the point where we find out that nobody's watching, because if you were watching, you'd be able to tweet and have stuff show up over here. And maybe I suddenly, yeah, the first thing I need to do is work out how to put a swear filter on things. So yeah, we've got, you know, we've got messages coming in from Twitter. We can search Twitter and we get to see the text come up. So now we need to do something with it. And to do that, I'm going to start playing around. We want to do stuff with the Liverbird, and so let's see if we remember to go into the install tab this time and search, and we can find. Let's see, this is the bit where I can't quite remember which of the WLED ones I was using in the past when I've been doing stuff. So yeah, let's try installing. This one's quite recently, you know, kind of looking at them. This seems to be more developed. It's got, you know, it's on version 2.4.2, and it's last updated a week ago. So yeah, this is probably a more usable one than this first one. So we'll go with installing that one. Let's actually have a look at the NodeRED. Yeah, well, we don't seem to do anything. Don't have to do anything special for that. So we'll just install it. So that has added a new palette, a new node to the palette. So somewhere around here, there we go. We've got WLED2. Let's should have a look at the help and see what it does. WLED. Oh, let's drag one onto here first, and then we get it. Okay. So we can send some settings to the WLED device. So node for control. So actually, yeah, the little triangle icon shows that there's some additional configuration that needs to be done for this node before you can deploy it. We had the same sort of thing with Twitter when it didn't know what the Twitter credentials were that it should use, and so this is going to be, you know, which WLED board are we going to talk to. So if we open this, hopefully, see, it's going to do an auto search, and it's found one at 33.231, which, if I go back here, I can just double check. Yeah, the IP address is 33.231. So yeah, I am going to be controlling the Liverbird and not just some other. There are quite a few instances of WLED knocking around in the office, as you might expect. And yeah, I'm not sure what all those different settings and stuff do. Presumably you can set some more, but we're going to be setting all this stuff programmatically, so we'll give it a name as well. We'll just go to the Liverbird. Done, and so now, yeah, the name is shown up here, and what we can do is let's change this one. So if I go and find basically what I'm going to do to begin with is just send a string into the Liverbird to control things. We'll wire up the output as well, just so we can see what messages kind of get back, or or if there's any errors, or I don't know, like it generally makes sense to begin with to be looking at the output. And then we need to know what message we can send in. So that's some JSON that gets sent in, and I suspect that is the stuff from the WLED wiki. So if we go and find there we go, the wiki for the WLED software, and we want to look at the JSON API, I think, because it's JSON we're going to send into it, and so it's probably going to be the JSON API. So that lets us, here we go, here's a kind of example of the sorts of things that you can do to send into it. And like, I don't think, well, I'm pretty sure you don't have to send all of these things into it. And here's a big list of all the different effects that you might set. So whereabouts are the colours? So I think, yeah, we generally want this. I suppose we can start with something simple. This is sample response. I think maybe what we want is to work out what to send in. So samples, that's the info object. Individual control. Okay, so let's just try sending some messages into it to see what happens. We'll try, let's try state. So we'll do, we change this string, and maybe we want it to be some JSON, and we'll do open curly brace and state. So this is, let me just close that for a second, and then I can control tab between them to switch. So we've got, state, and then an open curly brace, and then on is true. So and there's a colon after the state, and then an open curly brace and on, and then that's set to true without any quotes, because that's a built-in kind of keyword for JavaScript. And then we'll close that curly brace and close the outer curly brace. And actually what I will do is copy all of that, because what we're going to do is that's going to inject an on, but the Liverbird's already on, which isn't especially useful. Let me just drag that up out of the way for a minute. And go and find another inject, and we'll do another inject, and in this one we will set it to JSON, and we'll do on is true, on is false this time, and hopefully if we wire that into the Liverbird as well, then we'll be able to send either an on or actually just so we'll change the name of it so that it doesn't just say inject, so that we can remember which one's which while we're trying our stuff, and then we can deploy that and go to the debug messages, and let's see what happens if we click off. Right, we've got a node error for some reason. So, okay, the Twitter, not to worry too much about the Twitter bit. We'll get to that bit later. But as you can see, when I kind of hover over the messages, it shows you where the message kind of came from. So most of the things that are successful are just ones that showed up in the debug output, but when there's an error, doesn't like to, so it's coming to like maybe, although it expects JSON, maybe it wants it just to be a string. Let's see what happens if we make it a string. And do that. Yeah, one is false, yeah. So let's deploy that. Let's clear the debug output and try that. So that's on false. So that has done something to the to the Liverbird. Not quite what I was expecting. Doesn't look very not on. Let's go and see what's happened in the. Yeah, so that's just set the color palette to all white. It's interesting. And so let's change this on one, and this just needs to be a string. Obviously, being a bit too fancy by setting it to a JSON object. So we can send that one in. And that hasn't really done anything very much, but that's probably because it was already on. Yeah, so I suspect that it's not quite understanding this information that we're sending it. Let's go and read the documentation a bit more closely. So, the JSON API. Sending a post. So maybe we don't need the state bit. Maybe that's what's confusing matters. Let's try getting rid of the state bit, which, yeah, sounds like it would be something that would kind of come back in response. So let's just say if we do state, and then we need to get rid of the closed curly brace. State on true, and the off one is going to be more obviously visible. So let's on false and deploy that. Clear the output, see what happens if I click off. No, similarly has not done anything. We get two copies of the on one because you can see the message gets sent down all of the routes, so there's a route across here just direct, so we can get rid of that one so we don't get a duplicate of each one we send. So now we need to work out, yeah, how to do the how to send some messages. Maybe we should look for the WLED2. I mean, I know that there's a bit of help on it, but not a lot. These are specified in the node properties. Yeah, unless this only lets us set these sorts of things. So maybe we just need to do, what happens if we do state on or off or state toggle? So maybe let's try that instead. So expect some JSON. So what happens if we do state off instead and deploy that? And has that turned it off? No, it has not turned it off. Yeah, okay, so I think the next thing to do is to find some documentation for NodeRED WLED2. Because that was the node that we installed, wasn't it? So that's this one. And there is not a lot of information about how to use it, but maybe there is on GitHub, where the source code is. Here we go. So this seems to do all the things we want it to do. And various parameters for the LEDs can be provided by the incoming payload via a JSON object. Supported JSON properties are. So there is state, yeah, interesting. So I wonder if we're just not setting that properly. Where's the NodeRED gone to? Maybe it does need to be, after all, a JSON object, and Let's try it like that to begin with. Deploy, do off. There we go. Excellent. So yes, back to making this a JSON object. JSON object on is true. Deploy that, and then we should be able to do on and off and on. But hey, excellent. So we'll just leave those there because they might be kind of handy to run from time to time. Let's go and have a look and see what other things we can do. So we can do color 1, color 2, or color 3. So they might be good ones to do some stuff with. I wonder if there's a NodeRED node to deal with. It's interesting to see that Twitter's hit the rate limit. That's probably because they keep deploying stuff. I suspect it will sort itself out in a bit. But let's just go and see if there are anything, like, because what we want to do now is we're going to have, close that a second, go back to the debug message. Have we got any? No, we haven't got any useful. Yeah, Twitter's kind of tidied itself up now. But we're going to have the message, the Twitter message is going to come in as a string. And so what we want to do is extract a color from that string and then send it to the Liverbird. That would be a good starting point, wouldn't it? So let's see if there are any NodeRED nodes that deal in color. Yeah. So turns out the American spelling has more stuff. So what is there? Color circle, convert colors and color temperatures. Bunch of different things, and we can pull them out of an image. That's kind of nice, but yeah, I just want one that's going to read stuff from a string and give me a color. No, it's not looking like there is. No, it would appear that there is not. So the other thing we could do is go, so flows.NodeRED is a really nice kind of collection of people sharing different kind of NodeRED flows and things. So let's see if we search for text color. Nothing found, no. No. UK spelling of colour isn't very good. If we search for colour, so the nodes are going to be ones that showed up in that search we were doing in NodeRED, but we should, yeah, let's see, what's this one do? This does web page stuff. WebSocket for a colour to be received. Yeah. No, let's go back and just code it ourselves. And now you get to see me flail around trying to remember how to do some really simple searching through strings. And let's see whether there's one that would do a standard thing. So we could have a sort of, I think change node would potentially work. So this would be one way of doing it. So this lets us set the payload. Is this going to work? Is this the one I want? No, that's just always going to change the payload, isn't it? Yeah, that's maybe not what I want. Let's delete that one. Actually, I wonder what happens if we search for RGB. that going to do anything sensible? Converts colours and colour temperatures. That might be useful. Oh, colour name, okay, interesting. So maybe this is going to work. Yeah, keywork dark. Okay, yes, yeah, this looks like it might be useful. So let's install this. So that's NodeRED contrib color space. So let's go and find that node to install. Here we go. We'll install that. Okay, so now we have a NodeRED color space node. Color converter. Okay, so what does that do? We drag one of these out. Node to convert a color. Okay, let's go back and read the documentation better. Right, so this receives any color spaces and returns all of the others. Okay, right, let's see what happens if we open it. And it seems okay. So well, let's just try. Let's go and inject and see what happens if we give it a string and put the word red into that. Drag that over to there and drag that to the debug output and deploy it. And we will go and look at the debug things maybe better, Adrian. Hey, so there we go. We've got a load of information, so we can kind of open that up and all sorts of things. And the hex numbers may be a good one, because I am pretty sure we can pass that into the WLED kind of API and have things show up in that color. So let's now we can do with a change node, and if I stick that in there, and then we can pipe the message out of the color converter into there, and we want to set the payload. Do we want to set the payload? Yeah, and let's see if we can. I'm not totally sure if this is going to work, but we will give it a try. So we've got we want to set color 1. Actually, was it with a U? No, it wasn't. So let's get rid of the U from that. Color 1, and we want to set that to the message.payload.hex. So that's going to pull the hex string out of the message payload. I hope. It might not, and then we'll need to do stuff a little bit more complicated. But let's see what happens now. So we'll drag that over to the debug one because we want to see what happens when we do it, and we will drag it into the Liverbird because that might make the Liverbird red. Invalid to JSON property. Excellent. Okay. So it turns out that is not the case. Right, so let's do this in 2 steps then. So we'll set the payload to message.payload.hex. So that's just going to basically pull the hex bit out and replace all of this object with just the hex value. So by the time it comes out here, it will just have the hex value. And change, well, another change, oops, another change node, and let's make this one do that payload to message.payload.hex, just because I'll have to do less kind of wiring things together, so I can get rid of that flow so that the colour converter can go into there. The output from that goes into this one. So now the payload is just the is the hex value, and can we set? We don't want to set it just the payload, do we? We want to set it to some JSON. Actually, is there a way? Let's look at the help, which is always a good. Okay, we could maybe do it all in. It will do it in the order they're defined. Okay. Yeah, because we want to set message.payload to actually, yeah, let's do this a different way. There are many ways to do these things, so let's get rid of that. And I'm going to do a template, which, there's probably a better way I can do this, but this is going to work, he says confidently. So we are going to output some JSON, and so these curly braces will let us do kind of insert kind of templates, and it's templating language, so we can do color 1 is payload. I think that's going to work. So the payload at this point will be the hex string. That will get put into there. We'll see what happens anyway. And let's just wire this up and confidently fire it at the Liverbird, or that's probably going to fail, and debug the output so we can work out what I've done wrong. And we'll clear all of that and inject it, and it's not happy in there. Unexpected token : in JSON at position 9. Right, so let's see what was at position 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so it doesn't like having that colour. What happens if I put some curly braces around it to make it into a proper JSON object? And we can deploy that. Clear our debug output. And send a red in. And now it doesn't like the F in JSON at position 13. That's probably because there aren't any quotes around this string that's getting passed in. So if we put some quotes around it, we will see if that is going to fix things. Clear that. There we go, and the Liverbird is resolutely not red. Okay, probably because there isn't a hash in front of that FF. So let's have a look at the template again, and we'll stick a hash there, so that hopefully WLED will then recognize it as a kind of CSS style color. Well, that all looks a lot more promising, doesn't it? But it has not worked. Why is that? I mean, that's nice. Oh, I've got a U in colour. Duh. Let me try it again. And nope, still no joy. Okay.
You're doing some filming at the moment?
I'm streaming right at this moment, Jackie. So, Why is that not working? Okay, let's go back to just sending things into the Liverbird. How did we do this? We were doing state off. So let's get that payload. Let's add a new one and let's see if we can set the color by hand. So that's a string. And we think we can do color1 hash 00ff00, so we'll make it very green. And we'll wire that into the Liverbird. Actually, we had to say it was JSON, didn't we? Or did we? Yes, we did. We set it to JSON, not a string, so let's set it to JSON. And deploy that. And okay, so that also has not changed the colour. Let's go and have a look a bit more at what colour can be. Ah, yes, read the documentation, Adrian. RGB array of the first colour. Okay, so I think if we go and make this an RGB array, so if this then becomes 0, 255, 0, deploy that. Now this time might go, there we go, it's gone green, excellent. So now we've read the documentation and not just made assumptions about how we should pull things out. Look, we've got an RGB object which has red, green and a blue. So maybe what we can do is just in the template we can do color is payload dot RGB dot red, and then payload dot RGB dot green, two close curly braces, payload dot RGB dot blue, and then close the array. And so that's going to replace the these three things with the red, green and blue numbers. It's going to fish out of this payload object that gets passed in. And given that we're doing all of that, we then don't need that at all. And we can wire that into that and then deploy it. And now clear the debug output just so we can see what happens. What happens if we click red? It goes red. Boom, there we go. So now we can make the Liverbird green and red. And so the next bit is going to be fishing things that look like colours out of the tweets, passing them into the colour converter and then on to the Liverbird. So, how are we going to do that? What we want to do is just kind of find any of a whole bunch of strings. So we could, like, there's a switch, and we could have a switch that matches different things, but that's going to take us quite a while. I wonder if we can, like, the colour converter, like, what happens if we start passing in colours into the colour converter? Like, what if I just set that to be a string and then do blue? And yeah, can the colour converter cope with that? Let's find out. So I'll just, let me go over here, let's clear this debug output, and then we can hit blue. Yeah, it can. Nice. Okay. So the colour converter can cope with just random strings. Like what happens if we, let me just Control C, Control V, create a new one of these. Like, will it cope with fancy kind of colours? Like goldenrod is one of the HTML5 colours, which is a pretty obscure, like if it works with this, then it'll probably work with all sorts of stuff. Yeah, knows goldenrod, superb, excellent. Right, okay. Yeah, I wonder what happens if we golden eye. We send it a string that it won't understand. Does that just get ignored and thrown away? Yes, that just passes on an empty object, and then yeah, stuff isn't happy, but there isn't any ill effect. The error we can just probably ignore for now. Okay, so yeah, what kind of NodeRED nodes are there to do text-related things? Like, there's probably a billion things to do text stuff, but or maybe actually no. There's a split node, isn't there? I think. Is there a split node? I thought there was a split node. Network. Yes, split. Okay. So, like, as a really basic way of doing things, we can split the payload. Send a message for each key value. Copy. So it's a string that's going to come in, and the payload we can then split. And what happens if we split on a space? Is that going to work? So we can take the Twitter thing, send it into split. Then we might want a delay. Actually, is that down here? No. Batch. No. There is somewhere. Yeah, delay. There we go. So what we can do is rate limit. So we only send one message a second. So basically what we're going to do here is we are going to turn, drag that down out of the way. This is all getting very messy, which I apologise. But the tweet is going to come into split. That's hopefully going to split it on every space, so it's going to basically turn it into a stream of words. We should probably send that to the out payload for a minute just to see what happens. That's then going to go into this, which is going to mean that they'll get kind of queued up, and then 1 second will come out, and we'll just throw them into the colour converter. And if it's a colour, it will change the Liverbird to that colour. If it's not a colour, it will generate an error, and we'll just ignore it. So this might, if I'm doing, we'll see what happens. It's now deployed. Let's clear the debug output. Let me just go and find Twitter and try sending a message. Does the Liverbird play sea green, blue, red, orange, pink, and tweet that, and let's go and see what happens. Oh, there we go. And yeah, just changing colour and cycling through all of our different colours. Nice. So let's tidy some of this stuff up for a minute. I'll delete that one. We don't care about the colours anymore. Let's move the Liverbird down below things because that's kind of the end of the flow, isn't it? Move that over there a bit. We'll stick the debug output kind of over, so it doesn't really matter, but everything's going to go into that. We'll leave the on and off ones because they're kind of useful ones to have knocking around if we ever want to just turn the Liverbird off or back on. And one of the things we might do is provide some slightly better names for these things. So what's this doing? This is turn the colour into a message for WLED. So this doesn't matter, it's just going to make it a bit easier for me to understand what's going on when I look at this at some point in the future. So we'll limit that. Yeah. And actually, let me just get all of those and drag them up a bit. Okay, so there's all a bit more kind of tidied up, and that's just searching Twitter and then turning any message into a bunch of colours which then get converted and fed to the Liverbird to display different colours. Yeah, nice. I mean, the next thing to do, let's go and make it into a slightly better. What's a good what do you call it? Pattern. That's the word I'm looking for. What does ripple do? Not very much by the looks of it. Cyanron dual. I don't know why it keeps setting the colours to white. Let me tweet. Does the Liverbird play red and yellow, and pink and green, violet, and this is me not remembering why I can sing a rainbow properly, purple and blue. And let's tweak that and see what happens. We've got, yes, a bunch of different colours that's going through. It's always solid. Is it always going to get set back to solid? Yeah. It does always get set back to solid. That's interesting. So maybe what we want to do is have the template as well as having a colour. Let's do a bit of formatting this in slightly easier to read, particularly in this kind of restricted size because I've made everything a bit bigger. There we go. And so as well as the colour, we can also try setting, I mean, I guess actually, I wonder if we can, yeah, we might be able to batch them up 3 at a time. That would be quite nice, wouldn't it? So yes, there's a number of an effect. So what kind of effects are there? There are lots of different effects, and we were going to set it to Sign Lawn is one that I think will work quite nicely. So 93 maybe we'll try. What was that called again? Effect. I'll leave that list up maybe. So we'll do effect 93. Let's deploy that. Clear that. And going to annoy, actually let's send this to the McEwen bot, because that won't annoy lots of people who are following me. Does the Liverbird play yeah, red, yellow, blue? There we go. And the other colours are all white, which is a bit not very exciting. So we can turn that to black and that one to black, and then yeah, it's a bit more colourful now. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, what should we do? So that's, yeah, we've got a colourful Liverbird at this point. What would be super nice is if we can extract an effect type from the tweet as well. And that is going to need a bit more thinking about, I think. Yeah, because it seems that whenever you send yeah, just a colour to that WLED node, that it sets the effect back to solid. So we can't just try and match any of this big long list of names. I think we're going to have to do something a little bit more advanced to be able to parse yeah, the tweet a bit more. Yeah, what's going to work best? Let me see what the batch one does. Let's drag this and see what. Okay, so that might group a number of messages together. Like, I'm wondering whether this is going to let me kind of, you know, collect 3 colours together to then send them on. So you can set the entire, like as you can see in the palettes, there are 3 different colours. But we're still going to have the problem when we want to do the effects, that we need to do searching for the effects as well. So yeah, what I think we're going to do, let's cancel that. And actually, we just deploy that to be on the safe side. And because that's, you know, kind of a useful flow that lets you turn the Liverbird on and off and lets you set the colours from Twitter, what I am going to do, one of the nice things you can do with NodeRED is you can export flows. So what I can do, actually, or you can even save flows. Yeah, I think I need to select all of the nodes first. and then can I save it? No. Let me export those. And yeah, this is a big kind of JSON blob. And I can copy that onto the clipboard. Actually, maybe I should download it. That might have been a better one to do, mightn't it? Export. What does download do? Yes, I get flows.json. So I shall just save that, which means that I can then share that later on for anybody who wants to do the same sort of thing themselves. And now, let's go and see if we can work out a way that will do fancier things. So if we get rid of that split and have a function instead. So this will let me kind of write any, like, a whole load of JavaScript. And so what we want to do is, find the first name that matches the effect, kind of find the first three colours, and maybe set those as things that will get passed through. Let's just start with some fairly simple stuff. So we'll have an array of effects, and we're going to have, we'll have them be a JavaScript object which has the name of the effect. Let me go and find, and as you can see, there are loads of effects. And let's just find a few that make sense. Let's just drag those 4 for now. This is going to get messy at some point because we'll have to do a whole load of stuff, but basically if we have exploding fireworks, then we'll get rid of any, and that has number 90. We get rid of FX mode on each of them. That's just the word bouncing balls. 91. Sign on. We'll put space in instead of an underscore because people are more likely to type that into a tweet. And that's the last one in the array. So we've got an array called effects. And what are we going to do? We need to kind of, loop through. So for I equals 0, I is less than effects dot length I plus plus. So this is just going to loop over the effects and see if it can, chosen, we'll have a new variable, chosen effect, and we'll set that to be, I don't know, 12. Who knows what that effect is, but that's the one we'll have by default. And how do I, yeah, this is, how do I search in JavaScript to see if I can find a string? So let me, JavaScript string uppercase. So, okay, so there is a JavaScript to uppercase, excellent.
So it's just the
Yeah, p equals message dot payload to uppercase. Just, you know, if we make everything uppercase, then we're not going to have to worry about things matching case insensitively. And then JavaScript search, string search. How do I find something? There is a search method. Excellent. Let's go look at the Mozilla prototype. Search / regex. Okay. So hopefully, let's look at the examples. Right. So you want, yeah, can I stick another string into a, this is the case where I'm just like, let's go and poke around in JavaScript console. So I can do var, or actually, yeah, Fred equals hello. Hello world dot search. Can I just do Fred? But that's just going to look for the word Fred, isn't it? Yes, that has not found it. Whereas if I looked for hello, yes, it's at the start. So you see, it's the third character. So, yeah, what if I just look for Fred? Oh, Fred is the word hello. Excellent. So there we go. I can just pass in a string. Excellent. So that will let me do if. What am I doing? Yeah, P is the pay search effects I. So this is looking at the yeah, it's looping over each one of these, and it's going to look at yeah, they're going to be, I don't want that. I mean, this needs to be more, there's the name of the thing, so that's going to have the name, and go down there, and we'll have a value to do this bit. So basically this is giving us yeah, each of these is a little JavaScript object which will have a name value, so we can search for the name, and if that is greater than or equal to 0, then that means that this name is in the payload. So then we can set the chosen effect to be the value of this particular effect, effects I dot value. And let's start. Let's just test that and see if that works. So what we'll do is we will set yeah, then we can return just a JavaScript object where we set payload equal to, and this means we won't have to worry about the template later on. and that will have effect of chosen effect. Oops. So I think that is going to find one of those effects, and then pass it straight into the Liverbird, and we'll see what happens when we deploy that. Is that going to work? Yeah, we're on the debug one. So now I need to go and send, I can send what? Bouncing balls as a tweet. CQN bot does the Liverbird play bouncing balls? Let's see what happens. Tweet that. We maybe should have had a bit more debug output. Effect 91, which is bouncy balls. There we go. Nice. The annoying thing is that we now need a big list of colours, because we can then match the colours as well. So, what do we want to do next? We should basically get it to understand all of these different effects rather than just those four. So to do that, this is all going to be a bit messy, but we'll do the job. There might be a better way of doing it, but we'll start with this. Right, there we go. So that's a big list of effects that I've just cut and paste, and let's just play around with this in Vim. You could do it all by hand. Well, I mean, I am doing it mostly by hand, but this is hopefully going to make it a little bit easier. So I'm in Vim, which is a kind of fancy text editor. And so what I want to do is, basically I need to turn all of this into the strings that look like these lines. So I want to stick this in front of the number. So actually, let me just copy that. Control V will put me into kind of insert in a interesting place mode, and I can just scroll down through all of the things, and then I can do append. Can I do append? Yeah. Which is going to stick this in it, and if I escape, it should now go and put that on every single one. No, it has not. Okay, let me undo that. It's my own stupid fault for deciding to do an append rather than insert that I normally do. Insert that in front of it, and then yes, there we go. So now we've got that after all of the values, and I can go to the start and do the same sort of thing and select this entire block here, and then C will change all of each of those lines, and at the start of things I want let's put some spaces in and all the way up to there. So I'm going to paste that in, so that's getting closer. Now I should delete this. Delete word is going to delete the space, which isn't. This is going to be a little bit what do you call it? Messy. There is probably a better way of doing this, but Yeah. But I'm just going to do it by hand because that's going to be quicker. Well, maybe not quicker than me working out how to do it, but yeah. It saves me not having to do any thinking. That's what's better about this way. And if I'd been thinking about it properly, I'd have just gone and found multiple spaces and deleted them with a big search and replace, rather than going and doing it by hand. And more, yeah, I see, I'm only 42%. I totally should have found a better, quick way of doing this. Undo. And this is all going to be a bit painful because we need to do the same sort of thing at some point with a massive list of colours. And we're already, what, an hour and a half into the live stream. So maybe we'll get it to the end of doing this bit and then call it a day. Or maybe I'll just find a really simple short list of colours to begin with, and do that, and then as a exercise for the reader is going and finding all of the rest of the colours and entering them. Because yeah, basically we're just going to do the same sort of thing as we've done with the effect, where we're just going to search through the tweet and find a colour, and then once we've, what am I saying? Yeah, and then we'll find the colour, find colour 1, colour 2, colour 3, pass them into the output, and then that will set all the things correctly. So what else do we need to do with this? At the end of each line, we need to append close brace and comma. Aha. And again, there's probably, I mean, the selecting all of it probably would have worked better for putting all this on, but there's only 100 lines or something, so me just going down and repeating the operation each time, like dot will do whatever you did last again in Vim. If any of this looks like kind of magic, we don't want a comma at the very end of it all. And the next thing I need to do is cut and paste this all. Before we do all of that, what I also need to do is go and find all of the underscores and replace them with space. So I'm going to do that globally, and I'm going to search for underscore, and I'm going to then replace the underscore with a space, and boom, there we go. That has done 56 substitutions. So yeah, that's the sort of thing that I should have been working out how to do a lot of the other stuff more easily, but sure what I'd done there when I'd accidentally managed to take all of that. So there's that. There's 29 of them. And let's get copy. And the last block, copy. Okay, so that should let us do any of the effects. And yeah, we kind of want to do the same sort of thing with the colours, although the colours will be a bit easier because we can we use that? We can't use the nice colour. That's a bit of a shame. Yeah, okay. Let's just for now pick colour 1 to be hash. This is going to look terrible. This is why you don't let programmers pick colours. Actually no, because that needs to be an array, doesn't it? We'd worked out 255, 0, 0, and colour 2. Let's just see what happens if we set it to colour 1. Yeah. Oops. And the effect. So I deploy that. It should be possible to set any of the different effects that we want now. So we could maybe do, yeah, fireworks is quite a good one, I think. So again, what does the Liverbird play fireworks? Hopefully that's going to find a different effect. Yes, it's set a colour, and yeah, there we go. Nice. Yeah, so I'm not totally sure how we're going to do the colour thing now, because what I want to do is take any of the colours that are in the tweet and convert them into a well, basically kind of pass them through the colour converter. But that is going to be tricky because we've got the effect as well, and so the effect is going to get overwritten. Yeah, I wonder what happens if we... Yeah, maybe what we should do is... Yeah, let's do the same thing, and so you can only pick one colour. So yeah, like this is... Let's see what happens if we're going to have like I mean, I don't know what happens if we just pass the entire tweet into the colour converter, like, or yeah, let's let's just before we do that, let's just try sending a random string into the color converter. And we'll just set a string, and we'll just say, yeah, does this turn orange? And we'll see if it can pick out the word orange, or if it just kind of complains. So let's deploy that and go and have a look at the debug output and see what happens when we send this. Yeah, it's not happy. So we can't just send any old random string in, we're going to have to split it up. Okay. So let's go and find the split one and see what happens to anything else that's in the message object. Type, key, length. Bam, bam, bam. Like, so that splits the message. Yeah, like I'm wondering, let's just try it and see what happens. Wondering if here, instead of setting the payload to be all of this additional information, what happens if we do payload being message.payload and effect being the chosen effect. So what I'm hoping we can get away with, which we'll find out in a minute, is if we pass the payload on, then we can split it and do the colour trick that we were doing earlier. And I'm hoping that the effect will get copied onto, when the split happens, I don't know if the effect parameter will get kind of copied onto all of the messages. So what I'm hoping that it does. So we can then pass that onto there. We don't want to send it to the Liverbird anymore. Split is going to split based on a space. So that's going to pull out all of the colours into different things. And the other thing that we should do is get another debug message, and we'll do, instead of just outputting the payload, we can output the entire message object. And that will let us see if the, so we'll see the one coming out of here, which will have the effect set, I hope. And then we should see it split and see if the effect comes on each of them. And if it does, we should be able to put the effect here. And that will set colour one and the effect. Yeah, let's see what happens. Let's see it all fall over in a heap. So we'll send another tweet. Does the Liverbird play blue bouncing balls? And tweet that and watch it all fall over in a heap, I suspect. Okay, what did... Yeah, that's... Oh no, there is some blue in the bouncing balls, so maybe, just maybe, that worked. Let's go and fish out the objects that came up on this. So that was the initial message. This is the one that came out of the effect 91, got pulled out of it. This is when it's splitting it on individual, and the effect gets passed through. Excellent. Superb. So that's going to pass. Yeah, cool. So now we can send a colour and an effect I don't know what happens if you've already got, yes, maybe we should, oh no, we always end up with an effect because we have got a default, haven't we? Yep, default effect is 12, whatever that is. We should maybe make it solid rather than 12. What's 12? Fade. It doesn't, maybe that's, yeah, well, let's find out. MCQN bot, does the Liverbird play green? So this should just turn it to a different effect, and it should be green. And not a lot's happened so far. Have we received that? Did that all come through? No, it's just not very happy at all there, is it? Ah, it's because there's a question mark on the end of the green. Okay, let me, yeah, might need to go and fix that later, but for now we'll do, does the Liverbird play pink or yellow or something? Then I can put a question mark on the end of that, and that's going to be fine. We're obviously going to need to strip off any, what do you call it? There we go. And now it's fading between the colours and white, which isn't very exciting, but that's probably because we've still got white. Yeah, we've ended up white as the other two colours, so we can probably make that. I don't know. I don't like it fading with white. Let's in the template we can do color 2 0,0,0. So we'll set it to black for the other two colours. And deploy that. And try another tweet. MCQN bot, does the Liverbird play what colours? Orange, yellow, no, we've already got yellow, sea green, goldenrod, and let's see how that shows up. Yeah, so now it's fading. Yeah, fading. Fading's not a very exciting default pattern, is it? We should probably find a better pattern, but actually maybe we should find it in here. I'll just dissolve round and do. Oh, it's very colourful. Maybe I just want to dissolve. Is that always going to be the colour, and then yeah, that's a more interesting one, isn't it? Dissolve is the default one. So let's find where that is. That's 18. So we can set, so let's give this a name so we can understand it a bit more. Find any, or choose the effect, because it is always going to choose the effect. 18 is the default, and deploy that, and let's just tidy things up a little bit for no particular reason. We don't need to do that debugging anymore, and deploy that. So there we go. Apart from the fact that Twitter's now complaining that we've hit the rate limit, but you can now tweet does the Liverbird play what's an interesting effect that we can go with? Let's go and find, what does Dancing Shadows do? Ooh. Yeah, let's play with red or blue dancing shadows. Still need to get rid of any punctuation really, but let me tweet that and see what happens. I suppose we're not going to see it switch to Dancing Shadows now, are we? Because it's already on Dancing Shadows. I have effectively, there we go, it's gone solid, there we go, yeah, nice. Excellent. So, yeah, given that we're coming up on 2 hours of live streaming, it's probably a good point now to call it a day. I shall save this flow so that I can share that later as well. And yeah, leave you to let us know what you end up playing around with. If you try doing this yourself, yeah, give us a shout, and if you want a board to do all this sort of stuff yourself, then hit us up. Go and check out the shop. The link is in the description. I think it will be if it's not. Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching.
It's all working, it's all good to go. You have to just, I mean, it's a Chinese thing, like it's a standard thing. People do like drilling out PCs and stuff, and